Alrighty, let's get on with this. We are still making these. Back with my cup of tea. I'm gonna put it in the dangerous spot yet again. Because we like to live life on the edge. You know, I'm gonna keep joking about that until that inadvertently falls over one day. And then it's gonna be just an episode of me cleaning up the mess. So you know, when I first started making this show, I mean, it's in the description as well. It's inspired by Dave King. And yeah, Dave King made this really, really awesome drum show called Rational Funk. You can go and check it out. It's been a while now since he started making that. And then he stopped, right? He stopped making episodes. I think he had the first run of like 60 episodes. So then somewhere down the line, I got inspired by what he was doing, and then I decided, like, I'm going to make some. You know, because there's no more Rational Funk. So I'm going to make a drum show inspired by Dave King. I'm going to put it out there. And wouldn't you know, the moment I start making my drum show and I start putting it out there, Dave King comes back and he starts making Rational Funk again. So I don't know what your deal is, Dave, but are you afraid of, you know, competing? You're afraid of me stealing your 6 views from you for my videos? Is that what you're afraid of, Dave? That's why you went back to making Rational Funk? Eh? I don't mean any hate or whatever. Dave King is awesome, and you should definitely check out his show. But this is my show, and we talk a little bit about jazz drumming on this show, and we try and make some concepts happen, and sometimes we don't try and make some concepts happen. So today I want to talk about one of the kind of the most commonly asked by students who want to learn how to play jazz, but don't really know why they want to learn how to play jazz, or what they want to learn how to play jazz, or how they want to play jazz, or why they want to play jazz. You know, they are filled with all of these questions that are unanswered, but yet they still choose to ask certain very specific questions. And one of them, which should be reserved for like way down the line, but they ask it anyway, is how do I play a jazz solo? The equivalent of that is like, you know, how do I drive under 7.5 minutes around the Nürburgring? And you ask that question to your driving instructor on the first day that he's teaching you why there's no more clutch on vehicles. That's a similar question. So yeah, I get asked all the time about, you know, how do I construct a jazz drum solo? And I mean, there are many different approaches that you can create different solos, and there are many different kinds of solos. You know, there are solos that are a little bit out of time, and you know, they're just exploring physical concepts around the kit. You know, sometimes they try and play weird concepts like that, kind of like an open, very modern-y improvisational solo, sometimes built around themes. Like there's a really, really awesome solo that there's no name on it, but someone wrote in the comments of the video, Antonio Sanchez's drum solo. I think it was at like some drum festival somewhere, and it's called the Buzz Buzz Clack Clack solo, because he does this a lot. And throughout the solo, he does that. So it's like kind of like mixed around inside all of his solo ideas. Something like that. Right? You pick a theme and you kind of work around it. But the more common type of jazz solos, especially depending on the era of music they're listening to, it's kind of solos that are in time, that are kind of still swinging. So you'll be playing time, and then you solo over that. most people try and figure out, what do I do during that period when I'm soloing? Because especially if you're transitioning from playing, typical rock and pop grooves, and you're mostly just, used to doing fills that are half a bar or an entire bar. So you've got these really short ideas, and then when somebody says solo over like, 2 choruses of a 12-bar blues, you're stuck with your fill patterns, and then you just go over them over and over again, and then you shuffle them up, or you just play a lot of triplets. I've seen a lot of drummers do this. Oh, solo? Alright, I got this. Or sometimes they'll mix it up with a triplet, right? Yes. Solo? Alright, I got it. A lot of people are left wondering, like, oh, why does my solo sound horrible? Why can't I get my solo to sound, cool and interesting and hip and all that kind of stuff? Well, one of the ways in which you can really start to solo is to minimize some of the stuff that you're doing, right? It's not about the notes that you play, it's about the notes that you don't play. So leave some space, even if you're doing simple strokes like, that shuffly pattern, but, or the triplet pattern, just leave some space. There you go! Instant drum solo that no one can fault you for. As long as you're still relatively playing in time and you're not offending anybody with things that shouldn't be there, then you're good to go pretty much. So stick at that. However, of course, if you want to, develop some more solo ideas and you're figuring like, I only know how to do these 2 things, what else can I do? Well, one of the fastest ways in which you can start to learn ideas for your soloing is to go and steal other people's ideas, right? So go and listen to somebody play some stuff and then try and play it yourself. But to speed up this process even, to make it even faster and much more manageable, you can actually, transcribe solos. That way you can see visually what the drummer's doing, and then you can copy it without any problem. Now, the thing is that transcribing is, it's really tiring. It's very boring. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of sitting down and listening the same thing over and over again and trying to write it out. And sometimes you write and you don't know what you're writing. So yeah, you got to figure out a way on how to transcribe solos a little bit faster, right? So I've got exactly the trick for you. So what I have here is an Art Blakey solo from 1959, and we're going to try and transcribe it, but we're going to do it like an express process. So everyone develops their own little shorthand when they're transcribing solos, right? So that, you don't have to listen to it over and over and over again. So I'm going to show you a method in which you can transcribe a solo just with one pass, all right? So check this out. So you just play the solo. All right, that's the start of solos. It's got this like weird two hit thing going. Alright? Now normally if you wanted to write that, you have to write like strokes, like snare, tom, snare, 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 floor tom, snare, 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 tom, snare, 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 floor tom, snare, snare, and it'll look something like that, right? But the fastest way in which you can do this is just to, you know, follow the shape. So it's ta-ta-ta-tum, right? Ta-ta-ta-tum, 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 ta-ta-ta-tum. And as long as I know what that means, I'll be able to play this solo flawlessly. So here's my one quick transcribe method to transcribe Art Blakey's solo. So he does that a little bit, right? So we just put a repeat sign there. Right, then there's the floor tom going. Oh, snare drum. A lot of triplets, and then a lot of triplets, but the floor tom is going. All right, then Alright, a lot of crisscross stuff happening. And then snare drum. And then a lot of double tom stuff. Alright! If I had more paper, I'd you know, transcribe the entire thing. But that's what the Art Blakey solo looks like. Alright, I know it looks like just a bunch of squigglies, but watch as I play this flawlessly. Alright guys, Art Blakey solo, squiggly line, transcription, flawless interpretation. Here we go! Executed absolutely perfectly every single time.